welcome to another episode of This Is Why I Don't Vote, a podcast. A welcome place to discuss sports, politics, social issues, and religion. I'm truly embracing the motto of thinking critically, not cynically this week, as we have a guest to discuss, yes, Disney. Without further ado,
Act 1: The Merits of Rose-Colored Glasses.
another guest, believe it or not, has agreed to come on to the program. Her name is Susan. Susan has her own YouTube channel, and curiously enough, it features one of the entities that I've discussed on this podcast numerous times. Susan, please introduce yourself.
I'm Susan Catherine, and I have a YouTube channel that is about all the things that keep me connected to God. So some of the things that keep me connected to God are the Catholic Church. I like to film the church as it's waking in the morning in a series of cinemagraphs. But the other big part of my channel is Disney. I'm a huge Disney World fan.
As you know, dear listener, we have discussed Disney World, Disneyland, the Disney Empire on the podcast. And I thought I'd have someone on to give the other side of the story, so to speak, the flip side of that coin. So Susan, defend yourself. How can you support the evil empire?
Well, I don't see myself as supporting an evil empire. What keeps me connected to God is a small part of the Disney company, or maybe a large part. It's a part. It's Walt Disney World. I love the Disney parks. I love what they do and how they make me feel. Am I out to support Disney itself? No, but I'm also not a person who stands against something. So in the words of Mother Teresa, I'd rather be for something than against something. And I'm for what Disney does with the parks.
Gee, you're upbeat.
I don't know about that.
Well, I am someone who, when I go to these places, now, granted, I do have to admit, I've never been to Disney World or Disneyland. Having been, though, to a large theme park, I don't like the crowds. I don't want to deal with parking. I feel like I'm being patronized to in some of the way the products are positioned, so to speak. I feel like the only thing that they really want out of me is my dollar. How do you justify going in there and spending the kind of money that they charge you in light of the fact that I think you probably understand that as well, right? Mm-hmm. This is a large, very well crafted, very well manicured way to vacuum money out of your wallet. Is it not?
I don't think that's how it didn't start that way. So when Walt Disney started the theme park, started Disneyland, it was a place for families to go. And he had 2 young daughters, and he was watching them on a carousel, and he was sitting on a bench, and he thought there has to be a place where we can go where we can all interact together. So he was more a creator and not seeing the dollar signs, not necessarily looking for a return on an empire, a return to live, yeah, and he was a modest liver, but he wasn't looking to exploit and to make people buy things to create more money. So the crux of the love of the parks is still there. That hasn't gone away. And I'm like you. I don't like crowds. I don't like chaos. I am a huge fan of music. I hate concerts, and it depends on the venue. If we were to go somewhere like the Musical Instrument Museum up at the MIM, they have a great venue. It has about 150 seats. It's quiet. It's not clingy. There aren't people standing on chairs. I can't stand it, and I don't like going anywhere where I feel uncomfortable with parking, like I'm going to end up in chaos while I'm parking. But most often I'm staying on Disney property, so I don't have to go through that. But there's an unidentified X factor that Disney has that make people love what it does. I forgot the original question.
How can you defend the evil empire? That was the original question.
Not the original question. The question before I just started on this part was, I don't remember.
Well, basically, you were explaining how Disney started as somewhat of a modest, family-oriented
You're saying, how
enterprise.
can I support the exploitation?
Right.
I think that was it.
And how it's all now crafted to get your money. From whatever that modest beginning.
Yeah.
I compare it to McDonald's. If you know the story of McDonald's, the two brothers who started McDonald's wanted more high quality food to be served to people very quickly for a modest price. It wasn't until after the success of that model blew up that it became corporatized, and it had Ray Kroc came in and basically said, we can franchise this all over the country. And it became more about franchising and land acquisition than it did about serving people high quality food quickly at a low price.
Right.
So the
They've come into the
corporatization,
business of real estate.
right? The corporatization is always going to be a corrupting factor. I guess the reason why I wanted to have you on is to try to look at it from a glass half full perspective instead of looking at it as I do from a glass half empty perspective. You and I had talked about this as well, how not only do you have this affinity for Disney and how it brings you closer to God, but also for the Catholic Church. We were both raised very Catholic, correct? I have fallen out of favor also with the Catholic Church for all the reasons why most people have fallen out of favor with the Catholic Church over the course of the last 20 years. You still have a very close relationship with the church, correct?
Well, I do now. I mean, there were some years that I went away and was in search of, let's say, the universe. I became this universal person, and the universe will provide if you put your right vibration out there. Or going to a born-again Christian church where I learned more about the Bible than I did in my many years of Catholic education and going to Catholic church. But I came back to the tradition. I came back to the original church as set forth by Jesus Christ that has descended from his first appointed to his apostles and has descended down through every pope. Now, the problems the church has, are you talking about sexual abuse?
Of course.
Okay, well, I mean, because that's everywhere. I'm not saying it's okay, but there are more abusers in the school system than there are priests. You don't expect a priest to abuse, and that's awful, but be it beyond me to sit in judgment of everybody. I'm not perfect either. I have my own sins that I don't need to confess here, but I think everybody does, and I'm a part of it. I want to make it better. I don't want it to be defined the way it is. I think I'm a good part of it. So why not belong? It has the belief that I'm looking for stemming from Jesus Christ, the way he appointed it. I don't know if appointed is the right word, but
again, you're so upbeat. I love it. It's great. No, I just look at it as an institution that's been basically shielding pedophiles for 600 years, and I have a hard time getting over it because now I think that they have the right amount of information and the right amount of civil support that they can make the changes necessary, and they're still slow going and doing it. So I agree with you.
Sure.
You're going to find the problem systemic with the Catholic Church in other areas of society. I think the biggest problem is the fact that the Catholic Church for hundreds of years was the most powerful organization on planet Earth. You would expect that the most powerful organization on planet Earth, one that takes a moral, ethical, and religious position in society, would be the leader in cleaning that up, not be a follower.
Yeah, agreed. Same with doctors who abuse and
Right.
take an oath. So that's people. All we can do in our lifetime is join into what's right and be a good person and do the right thing. And we don't need to pass judgment on these people who are doing bad things. I think it's good to stop them from doing it, but do I need to sit here and judge and say you and all of your organization are bad because of these so many people?
Is this what you say when you see Mickey and Minnie at the park and you say, I really want to punch them in the face, they're annoying the hell out of me, but I'm not going to sit in judgment of what is probably a 16-year-old making minimum wage?
No, I guess back to Disney and talking about how is it that I can support it? How can I see them making money off of off of the things that they sell and taking advantage of people who are going there. People are getting something out of it. They're getting time with their families. They're getting time with their friends. They're in a fantasy land and they're able to just let go of reality for a while. There is this X factor about Disney that Disney lovers, Disney fanatics, super nerdy people can't put their finger on. I can't. I can tell you 20 things I love about it, but that's not everything I love about it, and that's not the one thing that I love about it. I feel like when I'm there, I feel like it's my home. I feel like the host. I feel like people are welcome into my home. I know so much about it. I walk around with pride. I smile at children who are so excited to see characters. I'm not even a big child person. My own children know that I'm glad that they're adults. I'm not a kid person. I love babies. They're great. Love little kids. They're great.
You love other people's babies.
Yes, I'm fine with that. But, and it's the same at Disney too. As an adult, I enjoy it more because I don't have to deal with a screaming young child. And that part, when that's happening there, and it happens often, I can just walk away. But to watch children light up when they see Mickey Mouse or they see a princess, how magical it is that this show that they've been watching on television, that they get so excited to see on television, now they're seeing this person live, and bashful and shy to see them, and just the joy that they have inside. I nearly shed a tear every time I walk into a Disney park. I do. It's awful. I hate to leave. I love to go. Sometimes when I go, I don't always know, well, what am I doing here today? I've done this so many times. And yet I can't stop going. I can't stop myself.
Well, I love that. And I feel like if I were the one who was in Disney, I'd probably think this is what hell is for me. This is exactly what's going to happen if I don't repent for all of my sins. They're going to send me to a Disney park. I'm going to have to wander around this place for all eternity, putting up... Have you ever seen the movie Zombieland?
Yes.
Okay. At the end, when they go to the Ferris wheel, they turn on all the lights and all the zombies come, and then they have this kind of like montage of violence where they're killing all the zombies? That's going to be me in Disney as a specter, trying to kill all of the patrons and being unable to do it.
Well, I challenge you to do that. I challenge you to go there. I think I should be your guide. I have to tell this story because Avery, and Avery and I were engaged, and we've been together for 4.5 years, nearly 5 years. He is the lover of all things sexy and sophisticated. He likes beaches in Italy. He likes wine. He likes evenings with candlelight. And it took me 1.5 years to tell him that I owned points at Disney Vacation Club until I had to use them. It was use them or lose them. I'm like, gosh, what do I do? And I actually went a year without going to Disney at that point in there because I was trying to figure out our relationship. Are we in this together? Are we staying together? Should I be telling him? And it just came time to, that's it, we've committed to each other. We want to spend the rest of our lives. To reveal to him
this ugly side of your life.
So I said, so I have Disney Vacation Club timeshare and I have to use it this year. And he said, okay, can you use it anywhere else? I said, no, we're going to use it. You can, but you don't get the same value as you do if you use it at a Disney property. So we had booked a trip for about 6 months down the road, which gave me some time to prepare him for this trip.
Mentally prepare him?
Mentally prepare him. And I had to prepare myself. I know a lot about Disney. I've been doing this for over 25 years. Back in the day when we had to research what kind of discount could I get? What are the stories behind these words on a window on Main Street? Just understanding the trivia and taking tours there. But you start to forget some of it and take some of it for granted. And so I had to brush up on all the trivia because the other thing that he likes, he likes architecture, he likes design, he likes creativity, and understanding a story behind something. And there are stories everywhere in Disney World, Disneyland, any of the properties. Everything has a story, everything is based on a story. So I just started looking up some of the names on Main Street so that when he and I could walk down Main Street, I could point it out and say, oh, that name Osh Popham is from this movie Summer Magic in the 1960s. And Osh Popham was the proprietor. He was a general store owner, and that's why his name is on this. And then there were Imagineers whose names were on some of the other windows. And those people had maybe designed a character or had involvement in the park somehow. So they were always attributed or a tribute to whatever it was that they had created for Disney. But anyway, in all of this time for preparing, and he didn't know I was doing all this research, and I'm meticulous with spreadsheets, Excel workbooks. I'm writing down all of this trivia so that we can walk through so that he'll enjoy it. But during that entire time, he's being sarcastic and he's saying, I'm really looking forward to our trip. I'm going to have so much fun. This is really going to be fun. And I got to the point where I said,
I can channel that, by the way.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I would be responding to this trip or anticipating this trip.
And so, which is what kind of leads me into this, because I feel like I'd love to guide you through it, but I also feel I'd be taking a hit by guiding you through it, because I'm my own best friend there. I'm fine there. I don't need anyone to go with me. I just don't want anyone to bring me down. And I said, listen, if you're really not going to enjoy it, if you're going to be sarcastic the whole time, if you're going to roll your eyes, if you're going to be sighing, don't go. I said, you can go and see what you think. Just know that I am going to go at least 3 times a year. I am going to go, and I'll go by myself. And we can take other trips in between, and I didn't know how that would work out with vacation time with work. Money-wise, because all of these things cost money.
Sure.
But I said, I'm going to go anyway. So he went, and luckily it was a good trip. I set up something called a VIP pass at Animal Kingdom, and it was a behind-the-scenes tour, and they got you in the front of the line at the better rides. So you had 6 of the prominent rides at Animal Kingdom, plus a knowledgeable tour guide who could spew off trivia as we're walking through the park, and interesting trivia. It's not just what's Mickey Mouse's middle name. It wasn't anything like that.
Does Mickey Mouse have a middle name?
I don't know. I thought you were going to ask me that. I'm like, what is on my lip? It was interesting, and he loved it. He thought it was fantastic. Now he's tolerant. He's not a huge Disney fan. He's tolerant of it, and he will go with me. But my last 3 trips this year. Yeah, I've had 3 already this year. He hasn't gone. But that's mainly because I'm filming for the YouTube channel. And I'll admit there are times, like I said earlier, I'm at a loss for what to do. But for the most part, I'm just happy to be there. Immersed in the magic.
Immersed in the magic.
Mm-hmm. So you need to go. And one of the things you need to go that makes it tolerable is that
this is like a bitter pill, as you're saying it.
It's not a bitter pill. You would love it. And I guess it also ties it back to why I was talking about him. He said, wow, this really isn't so bad, because as we walk from one park to another, or from a resort to a park, or a park to a resort, I'm taking him to bars. So I'm going, oh, we're at the boardwalk. We have to go inside and go to the Bellevue Lounge. We get a drink, and we would walk around. This is pre-mask. We would walk around, and the next thing you knew, we were at a pool bar. We were at Leaping Libations outside of the boardwalk at the pool. On our way to Hollywood Studios, we'd grab another drink. We'd walk to Hollywood Studios. We'd get inside. Well, let's go to the Tune-In Lounge and grab a drink. So, just
you really could be a tour guide, because you already have, it's like there's a map in your head of this entire park. You know where everything is.
I do. I know where everything is. And there's something in Epcot called Drink Around the World that people are they're glued to the idea of, I want to drink around the world and get a drink in every country as I go through World Showcase and Epcot. We've been drinking around the world since drinking around the world was a thing. It's just, as an adult, that's what gets you from one point to another, is knowing there's a bar in between. So it's part of relaxing and enjoying vacation.
So one of the reasons we discussed this, prior to you coming onto the show, I started on my podcast as like an open letter to myself, right? Mm-hmm. I think the correlation initially was, you feel about Disney what a lot of sports fans feel about their franchises.
Yes.
Feel about the parks or the stadiums that they go to. There is a reverence. Mm-hmm. I felt that for a very long time, until I realized that I was the one, because of my attention, because of the money that I was spending, because of my loyalty, I was allowing these idiots to be idiots. I was allowing people who really weren't that sophisticated when it came to running these franchises, sophisticated when it came to actually managing these parks. I was allowing them to fail up. Do you ever feel like that? That you're allowing Disney to fail up, make bad decisions, do bad things, and yet because of this affinity, when you walk into the park, you can't help but dish out that money again. You can't help but get back to that same place.
Censoring rides that maybe had something to do with something controversial in the past. There's a ride called Splash Mountain that's based on the movie Song of the South. So this is now going to be turned into the Princess and the Frog theme, Princess Tiana. It's more of a New Orleans-based sort of a thing. And that's
I have no idea what you're talking about, by the way.
It's a great movie.
Okay.
I think Princess Tiana was the first black Disney princess. So by converting it to that, it's a much cleaner story, a better role model for children going forward instead of...
But it's interesting you've gone that way because I don't feel like the way that I look at Disney, I have any animosity towards that company for things that they did 50, 60 years ago. Not, again, I think we both agree. They have other stuff that they had done contemporaneous to that time that was probably just socially inept, if not outright racist or sexist. I think my problem is more 21st century Disney in that there are so many different problems that they've created. I'll tell you one thing. I know you may not be a fan, but I was that kid who went to the drive-in when he was 5 years old for the very first time to see Star Wars. I can remember exactly where I was to see The Empire Strikes Back. I can remember exactly where I was to see Return of the Jedi. The movie theater, all of that. You know, Disney bought that property.
Yep.
Disney ground that property into the ground, destroyed it with fire, ruined it forever.
How so?
The movies were awful. We'll start there.
The movies that Disney got involved in.
Yes. So there was basically the three that were done by George Lucas back in the day. Then he said, these were actually the middle films. There is a 3-film prequel that I'm going to do myself. Really wasn't that good. Was it a slap in the face? Yes. Did he burn it with fire? No. Then Disney came in and said, we'll give you billions of dollars, George. We want to take this over, and we're going to do a whole Star Wars universe. Billions of dollars is hard to turn down. I don't care how much you love anything. People say, oh, I love my children. Are your children worth $2.5 billion? Because if someone came in and said, I'll really give you $2.5 billion for one of your children, I think any parent on planet Earth would be like, They may not take it, but they're certainly going to consider the offer. Disney buys the Star Wars universe for that. I think it was $2.5 billion. It may have been $3 billion. The Google machine will tell us if we actually wanted to find out. But once acquired...
Because it's okay to do business with Google, because they're stand up, aren't they?
I don't know. The biggest problem with doing business with Google is... I don't know how we can not do business with Google. It's harder and harder now if you want to go and reference something on the internet.
No. DuckDuckGo is the one, people use without having their...
It's not as funny to say, though, the DuckDuckGo machine.
No, and the returns aren't as fun either on your search.
That's true. It's not as good.
Yeah.
Which is also problematic. But the movies were bad. Let's just leave it at that. The movies were not good.
So which ones were they that Disney created that were the...
They brought back the original characters. There was 3 of them.
Yes.
Right? And so they brought back some
Hans
of the original...
and Leia met up again, yeah.
And then they had the first one was basically a soft reboot of the first movie. So it wasn't that creative, but they had to try to get a whole new generation of people involved in the Star Wars universe, right? They really wanted to attract the same kind of person that they attracted the first time. They wanted 5-year-old me to go and see the movie, but they wanted my 5-year-old to fall in love with the movie equally.
What they wanted, right.
The problem was, in doing that, it all became about the money. It was all about spreadsheets and profit margins and things of that nature, and the movies were bad. The other thing that pissed me off and that I have a real problem with have to be tactful, even on a podcast like mine, a podcast like yours, where our reach is probably very limited compared to some others. But I'm going to say this. The way that Disney kowtows to China, that's the reason why a lot of their products, I don't like them. Mm-hmm. They are basically crafted and sanctioned by the Chinese government so that they can be distributed to the Chinese audience. It's hard as a company. Again, no parent is going to look at you and say, I'd sell my child for $2.5 billion. Mm-hmm. But they consider it for a second. You're looking at a market of billions of people. So it's hard for Disney. I understand from a corporate perspective, it's hard for Disney not to want to sanitize a product so that it would be acceptable to the Chinese audience, because that's billions and billions of people. It's actually more money than the U.S. market, than the Western markets. They can make as much or more in China on a film that they produce than they're going to make here in the West.
Mm-hmm. Is that what you're talking about, films? Crafting the films so that they appeal to the Chinese market also?
Well, I think Disney is starting to craft a lot of their commercial products so that they can be marketed in the East as well as the West. That doesn't affect what you do as much as it affects the way I interact with Disney. If you're going to a park physically in Orlando, Florida, or in wherever it is in California, I don't know that they're really sanitizing a lot of the stuff, the physical property in those areas, to cater to a Chinese market. But pretty much everything else that they're doing that's multimedia, I believe they are. That's basically like shitting in my mouth. I don't like it. Don't like it.
Yeah. I guess I don't really, I haven't thought about it. I haven't had an opinion on them crafting anything just for China, because that hasn't come across my sights, my ears, or I haven't seen it. I haven't noticed it.
Well, again, given the way you interact with Disney, if you're going to those two properties that have been around in this country for decades, I don't know that they're doing a lot to sanitize what the product is there for the consumer that's physically on site at these properties. I don't know that they're doing a lot to sanitize it for another market.
I mean,
I don't know that they have to.
I could compare it to Hong Kong or Paris, as I've been to those parks also. I haven't been to Shanghai or Tokyo. And they're all unique to that region, their feel. They have the resort properties crafted in a way that's expected by that market. So the resorts in Paris are much different from the ones in Florida. And the ones in Hong Kong are a little different from the ones in Florida. And as far as product, like souvenir type products or character type products, they have unique characters in Shanghai and Tokyo that they don't have in Florida. So I don't know. I guess I'm not seeing what it is that you see.
Well, and that's part of it. That's part of the reason why I wanted to have you on. I think you can almost open your eyes too wide, right?
Yeah.
And once you do, and you start to accept all of the different elements that a company like Disney is involved in, it is easier to become disillusioned.
Yeah, I like that.
Cynical.
I like rose-colored glasses. I'm okay with that.
So with those rose-colored glasses, if you were going to take me to this park and be my guide, what would be my exposure vis-a-vis the money? How much money would I have to budget to go on one of these excursions?
I would say at least $150 a day for food.
Okay, that's not terrible.
Say $150 a day for a ticket. I don't buy souvenirs, really.
No, I will not do that either.
That's not my thing. Sometimes I'll buy a little Disney jewelry, some Mickey Mouse earrings or something like that. Usually I ask for them for a gift, but I don't walk away with souvenirs.
I imagine living in Scottsdale, the alcohol there is no more expensive than the alcohol in Old Town or in any of the other areas. Probably
slightly more expensive.
Good Christ.
Yeah. You just pay a little bit more. For, let's say, a manufactured drink, a cocktail, not necessarily a glass of wine. Yeah, a glass of wine is more expensive. I haven't compared what a glass of Chapelet red blend would be in Scottsdale versus the $18 that I'm paying in Disney World for that glass. It's a lot of money.
I think it'd be the same. And that's a
You
sad
think so?
commentary on Scottsdale, not on Disney. That's actually complimentary to Disney. That it's the same amount of money in Old Town Scottsdale or in Fashion Square or in Kierland or any of those areas than it's going to be at Disney. Although I think one could argue that there is a level of fantasy and magic in the nightlife of Scottsdale. I don't know. The fantasy and magic that you get at one of those parks is certainly life-affirming and uplifting, whereas the fantasy and magic that you get in Scottsdale is the exact opposite.
And then there's that X factor again, right? So, you have a fantasy. It's not the same, though. There's something missing from... If I go to Hermosa Inn, if I eat at Lon's outside in the patio, and it's
Which is beautiful.
Romantic, it's gorgeous. They have a beautiful property. Secluded, a nice hidden little place where you just feel cozy and at home. And then I go to Disney World. There's no comparison between the two. At Disney World, I'm at home. There's stress lifted off my shoulders.
Well, I do appreciate you coming on the show. Why don't you tell people where they can find you on the large internets?
Sure. On YouTube, it's Susan Catherine. That's no space. So you can find me. The logo is a pink circle with white and black in the center. It's has a cross and Mickey Mouse ears. What an odd combination.
Figured as much.
Those are my passions.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And I will check out your channel. More so just to reaffirm in my own skeptical mind that I never want to go to this place. But maybe one day we will end up in Disney World together. Is it Disney World? Is that the one you go to?
I love Disney World. Disneyland, to me, even though that's the original, that's my in-a-pinch fix. It's a 5-hour drive from here. So I can't not access it, although it hasn't been open for a year.
Stranger things have happened in the universe. I might end up at a Disney property with you one day.
Yeah.
You can be my tour guide. I won't say one thing negative for 2 hours. How about that?
I can spend 2 hours with you after that. We're done.
Okay, fine. That's a deal. That's a
Okay.
deal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Act 2 Sports.
The truth doesn't matter when you're in love. Not at all. And mainstream sports media loves them some Aaron Rodgers. Oh, they get so creamy over some Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, over the years, has been qualified as somewhat moody and impersonal, a private man. But this narrative is often contradicted by the people he's closest to, namely his family, for reasons that are still a mystery. Aaron Rodgers is alienated from his family. His brother is a commentator for ESPN. He does SEC college football games. His brother was a quarterback as well, played at Vanderbilt. Whatever the family drama, Aaron Rodgers doesn't talk to them. Over the course of the years, other stories have come out about relationships he's had with players, where one incident, mind you, can sour the entire relationship. The point is, some athletes get a pass for this behavior and some don't. Aaron Rodgers has a real cream jeans relationship with the mainstream sports media. Fact of the matter is, he's a testy bitch. He's always been a testy bitch. When he acts like a testy, tantrum-throwing bitch, he doesn't get called out for it, particularly through the mainstream media. When fans call him out for this behavior, naturally it's qualified as jealousy, team rivalries, what have you. Currently, Aaron Rodgers seems to be sideways with the Green Bay Packers, namely the general manager, for decisions that have been made specific to what is believed to be player personnel. Aaron Rodgers, as a testy bitch, believes that he isn't getting sufficient help in order to win at the highest level from the current general manager. Therefore, he either wants to be traded or he wants the general manager to be fired. Let's assess. One of the positions entertained by the mainstream media, who again has white hot cream blown all over their face by Aaron Rodgers, is that the general manager has not drafted in the early rounds of the NFL draft offensive players of the caliber to help the Green Bay Packers move the ball up and down the field, score more points. Green Bay, in the last at least 5 or 6 drafts, has focused on defensive players, particularly in the first round of the draft. A first-round draft pick, a very coveted pick, a high pick. Naturally, this is where you're going to get the best college talent on offense and on defense. Aaron Rodgers' gripe, they keep drafting defensive players. With Green Bay's loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the 2021 NFC Championship game, Rodgers' record in championship games, in games where if he wins, he's going to the Super Bowl, is 1-4. 1 win, 4 losses. Personally, this is the part of Aaron Rodgers' story where I get full of cream, where I have cream in my jeans. 1-4. The NFL is a quarterback-centric league. It is a quarterback-driven league. The quarterbacks get all the accolades, they get all the acclaim, and when the team loses, they get all the blame. And rightfully so. And rightfully so. I think Aaron Rodgers, out of resentment, out of petty misgivings, has always held himself out to be a better quarterback, particularly at Green Bay, than Brett Favre. Note, Brett Favre went to 2 Super Bowls. He won 1 and he lost 1. Aaron Rodgers has only been to 1 Super Bowl. He has lost 4 opportunities to go to the Super Bowl. And he refuses to accept that it is on him. It's the team's fault that he's 1-4 in the NFC Championship games that he's participated in, not his own. If only I had more weapons. If only I had more help. And here the team goes year after year, particularly in the first round, drafting defensive players. I've had it. I've had enough of this. And the media entertains as much. Let's be clear, dear listener. That is absolute bullshit. That entire narrative is bullshit. It is particularly bullshit in light of what happened. The specific plays that occurred in the NFC Championship game in 2021 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let us hearken back to said game. Tampa Bay is stomping the Green Bay Packers. The second half looks like it's going to be a cakewalk. Aaron Rodgers throws interceptions. Yes, quarterback with ball in hand, throw ball to other team, turn ball over, bad quarterback. With beer in hand, with shit-eating grin on face, I say good. I look for Tampa Bay to put the game away. What do all those defensive first-round draft picks do? Do they fold? Do they give in light of the poor field position that they've been handed at a key moment of a game that is going to allow them to go to the Super Bowl? No. You know what happens. The other golden boy for the middle-aged, sexually repressed, puritanical sports reporter, the chosen one, Tom Brady, goes out and throws an interception himself. And throws another interception. And throws another interception. Green Bay defense stands tall. Aaron Rodgers turns around, takes the ball, drives down, scores 3 touchdowns. Green Bay wins the game and they go to the Super Bowl. Oh, wait. That's not what happened at all. Aaron Rodgers got the ball back 3 times, did f*** all, and they lost the game. Because they want to create drama. Because, as we discussed, the media today, it's all human interest stories or sensationalism. Human interest story or sensationalism. The human interest story And the sensationalism is wrapped up in the fact that at the end of the game, the coach decides to kick a field goal instead of let Aaron Rodgers try to take the lead with the ball in his hand on a 4th down. What is looming over that decision is the fact that Aaron Rodgers had been given the ball multiple times in the second half by the defense, by the very players that he had lamented had been brought to the team by way of the draft or free agency in light of offensive players. These players gave him the opportunity to win the game, and he did not do it. But he still wanted another chance. Now, in light of his career, in light of who he is, in light of the circumstances of the game, did I think it was a good decision that they went for the field goal? Hell no. I thought it was a terrible decision. And again, shit-eating grin on face, take sip of beer, feel good about it. Feel good about it. But let's not misunderstand for a second that Aaron Rodgers had his opportunities in the NFC Championship game granted to him by his defense after he had thrown interception after interception to go down and win that game. Aaron Rodgers did not do it. The Green Bay Packers are not 1-4 in NFC Championship games. Aaron Rodgers is 1-4 in NFC Championship games. Now, I divorced a team that can't get to the playoffs, and in the rare circumstances they ever do, can't win in the playoffs. Bill Parcells said it best: you are what your record says you are. Get as creamy as you want to about him. Aaron Rodgers doesn't come through in the big moments. His record states as much. He's another high-paid, egomaniacal athlete who can't accept any of the blame, but demands all of the credit and the accolades. Maybe he gets traded. Maybe the GM gets fired. Personally, I don't care. Frankly, I'd love for him to stay in Green Bay, for the GM to get fired, for him to go to the NFC Championship game 3 out of the next 4 years and lose them all. Regardless of this public persona, regardless of all of the love bestowed upon him by fans, by, in particular, the middle-aged, the sexually repressed, the puritanical sports media, he deserves nothing more. As I stated in an earlier podcast, and unfortunately it's so, as William Money said in The Unforgiven, deserves got nothing to do with it. But damn it, once in a while, when you see something like this, when you see someone like Rodgers, and you see a record on the stat sheet, 1-4 in NFC Championship games, you think to yourself, maybe justice is real. This is why I don't vote. A podcast.